Hi Libra, this is your astrology for October. For all Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus signs in Libra. But if you're new to the channel, you're not used to watching me or the astrology with me, I want to say before you get involved any deeper, if you're watching me for Venus signs, I know that you are ruled by Venus, but I want to make sure that I throw out there. Typically, if you're following me under the Venus sign, Venus doesn't necessarily show up for me as love. And if you're looking for that love reading in the astrology, you're not going to be receiving it too much from me unless it's really just coming out and there's no way I can not see it. Because spirit, typically, when they're dealing with me, Venus is more of sensitivity, whether it's positive or negative, and they show me Venus in that form, not necessarily love. So if you're looking for the love reading in astrology, I do apologize, but you might want to go look somewhere else. Point blank, I throw that out there right off the bat. Now, this is an astrology for Libra from the point of view of Libra for all of October. I will admit, though, unfortunately, I try to keep it at about 30 minutes. So with me trying to keep it at about 30 minutes, I can kind of only give you a little bit of a generic run through. And that's because I'm keeping it on a universal level as well. So I can't get too deep into aspects and all of that good stuff. And if you do want your own private appointments with me for astrology, tarot, shamanic work, anything along that line, you can find all of the information on how to reach me down below. Also, you might want to go back and double check on, the tarot readings because they came out a while ago, and just check the playlist so it makes it easier for you to find. Now, with all of that being said, before I jump into the actual astrology itself, Spirit is telling me some of you are having some family judgment this month. Some of you are being pushed back because you're allowing that family judgment to push you around. I am definitely getting some working through that universal 12th house, of some of your secrets, your sorrow, your shame, your blame. Your unconscious energies are rising to the surface and asking you to get right with your own personal identification within them. Your independence, your individuality, your uniqueness, your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. Some of you are holding on to repressed energy or anger that's actually kept you from moving forward because you feel like you have lack of support, or you're in opposition or in worry about the situation. But it's definitely that you need to be communicating it, because I'm being told that it's definitely about communication and vision and wisdom, helping you come into a new calm truth of self by a growth of something that you're learning about yourself. I feel like a lot of this communication is with the outer world, but it has to do first with you getting the communication with self right first. Finding peace with self so that you can get right with your feelings of what you've kept unconscious and why you've kept it unconscious. And some of that has to do with your Mars energy, which is your sacral chakra, is the way I see it. It's passion, action, aggression. It's your inner warrior versus like the inner belly dancer. Let me put it to you this way. When you look in a mirror and you feel good about yourself, your sacral chakras a little more pep in your step, because when you're looking in the mirror, you still feel good about yourself. But when you look in the mirror, you're not you're like, oh, what the hell happened there? We all have those days. I mean, then you're not quite as feeling secure about yourself, your inner emotional security about how you feel about yourself, about the way when you get dressed, you don't feel like you're looking good. You're holding on to frustrations that have kept you believing something about yourself is what Spirit is saying. And this is a form of healing, part of that sacral chakra, and finding that healing of communication with self that allows you to get back into a new level of independence, a new level of expressing your individuality, your uniqueness, your inner truth with a new level of authority. But you're sifting through some of that darker shit in order to see that, is what I'm being given. Now, let me get into, I'm sorry, it just happens to be part of the way that they communicate with me, and I was checking out some of my notes. Spirit is also saying a lot of this month is going to be about you coming into truly being honest with yourself about pursuing your true pursuit of pleasure. Not what you've been handed or given or accepted, but what you truly, brings you joy. What will honestly, truly get to the depth of your joy and your creativity and, your personal interests, and really finding a new pleasure in life by connecting with that, and also part of that inner child. And where that takes you for that inner fun. Where's the inner fun? And where have you been lying to yourself about that true pursuit of pleasure? For whatever reason, you haven't allowed some of those areas to come to true light. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to go into what the main highlights are for the month. Like I said, I have to give it a little bit of a generic because I don't have time for, every aspect for the whole month. So I'm going to give a generic, what's the important highlights and all of that good information. And I'm going to try to keep it in about 30 minutes, or at least that's the goal here. But Spirit keeps pointing out other things. You're looking at some of the depths and the truths of your hidden self that you've kept hidden from yourself over this month. Are we good? And being responsible to you. Being responsible to you. Are we good? Am I allowed to go on? Okay. For the beginning of the month, this is a Libra season, but I am going to tell you so much of this energy is really taking place in Scorpio. So, it is Libra season, and I am being told right off the bat also to ask you, because your very core energy is Libra, and what most astrologers are not going to speak about is how Maya and make, or maki, however you pronounce it. Both of them are in Libra. This is your very collective consciousness. Okay, you have the sun here until the 23rd, and you also have Mars, which moves in on the 4th, bringing that power. That's what's bringing this whole flipping over of energy and getting into that sacral chakra, is that Mars being here. It's bringing a whole new sexuality to the very core of who and what you are. It's illuminating you in a new way, but also by getting to some past depths of truths of what really kicks it up for you on your creative expression, your inner child, your inner joyfulness, not just sex, but sexuality, how you feel about yourself, then brings in that inner passion, action, aggression, warrior personality. But what Spirit's directing me to is how Maya is here with the sun, bringing in that awareness, that identification of who you truly are, your image, your view of life, your appearance, your personality, your physical body, bringing, a whole new awareness to all of that, bringing it back into this energy. But your collective consciousness is making it actually look a little deeper than what it normally would be when it's in Libra season. And what's really digging it deeper in there is make is in here, or like I said, maki, and it is the lotus flower. The way that the lotus flower works in astrology is it asks you truthfully. Ask yourself, where are you on the growth of the lotus flower? The lotus flower is a beautiful flower that speaks to us of illumination. However, it grows in some really nasty, muddy, murky, stinky ass water, which would be like that universal 12th house, where our secrets are kept, where we put our skeletons in the closet and then they have skeletons in the closet. Okay, so it's asking you, where are you on this level of the lotus flower? Are you still in the muddy, murky water? Can you not see the true, divine, beautiful life that is here for you to have because you're stuck in the shit and you can't see past the shit? Are you starting to realize these things, make these changes? You're coming to where you're lifting up out of the water, but the water's still funky, it's frothy and just a little bit nappy, but if you look up, you can see the sunlight, and if you look down, you're back in the mud. Are you kind of like in between? Because Spirit's saying what you need to be paying attention to is, the stretching for the bloom, stretching for the flower that's reached out of that and is being able to bloom into the sunlight, into that illumination. This is about coming into a new depth of yourself. I mean, a much deeper depth of yourself than you've probably ever been working through. Because this isn't just going to be an appearance or an egotistical view, of self-awareness. Because this is coming into, with how Maya and make here, a whole new collective consciousness of thyself, which is going to be starting to speak to that higher self, and bring in some of those depths of truth that you've never really quite maybe analyzed or really touched base with. And Spirit is definitely pointing that out to me as we get into that very first house. Now, you're going to have Pluto, which is going direct on the 3rd. Mercury also moves into Scorpio on the 3rd. Pluto's the only planet that doesn't, when it goes direct, it doesn't move forward. I mean, like, it moves forward, but what I'm trying to say is when most of the planets are in retrograde, it's like they only are talking to us about whatever it is that their communication is about. Well, Pluto never talks to anybody but us. When it's in retrograde, it's in overdrive. So as of the 3rd, it starts to relax. It's been like just inwardly communicating and kicking ass. And it's all about death, decay, and destruction for renewal, rebirth, and regeneration. In Capricorn, it's asking you to speak to your soulful self. To your soulful self and bring in a new foundation of that truth. Saturn has just gone direct in this very energy. So they're both still in shadow, picking up speed, asking you where those rules, walls, and boundaries have been in the wrong place with the wrong people, places, and things in our outer communities, and how we shift that back to correct, to help us illuminate ourselves into a new resurrection. Now, for you specifically, that's your universal 4th house. That is your inner emotional security being picked on. Your inner emotional security and your karmic lessons that create the reincarnation. Like I said, you're coming into a new level of what higher self is. Stepping away from that egotistical idea of what self-awareness is and what appearance and image is. But into the depths of soulfulness and the roots of what gives you inner emotional security here. And where are the people in our lives, the places, the things that we do in our life take from us being able to really honestly, with depth, grab back a hold and feel secure in inner emotional security. This is the soul. It can't be taken away from you. The only way you can lose any of its power, any of its depth, any of its truth, is when you accidentally lost faith in self and gave it away. This is about reclaiming that. This is about healing those karmic wounds that bring emotional security, inner emotional security back to you and allow you to reset roots. This is what's going on for you with this Pluto and Saturn going direct, but you're still going to be seeing some darker aspects as it starts to come forward. On the 4th, you have Mars moving into Libra. Like I said, I was already explaining that. On the 8th, you have Venus moving into Scorpio. On the 13th, you have the full moon in Aries. On the 23rd, the sun moves into Scorpio. On the 27th, you have the new moon in Scorpio. And then on Halloween, we have Mercury, which goes retrograde, as well as you have the moon, Ceres, and Jupiter all in perfect alignment, more or less, like off by a few degrees, in Sagittarius on Halloween day. So it's going to be a powerful day. I mean, and you just heard the phone go off, and that's when it's not even connected to the internet. Okay. So, I mean, that may actually be an important message to you that something's going to happen on Halloween, since we were talking about that at that time for you. Now, you also have Vista, which is in retrograde. That's the home and the hearth, the soul, meaning it's really speaking to you at this time. Pallas, which is in Scorpio, and Ura, which is in Virgo. Now, let me start going through the houses for you. And then when we hit the two where the full moon and the new moon are, I'll speak to you a little bit more. Like I said, I pretty much was already going over that first house for you. Your second house is going to have Pallas in it, Mercury in it, and Venus in it. Now, around the 14th, Mercury is going to somewhat start feeling that energy of shifting from direct into shadow. So that outer communication is going to start looking at things from a little bit of a more negative aspect. This is your second house. This is where your self-worth, your self-value, and your self-esteem is. So you may be viewing outwardly things that are getting in the way of you being able to be true and honest and righteous with yourself within that self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem. But you have Pallas here, which is able... Pallas is Athena, the warrior goddess. She's able to help you strategically think how to maneuver your way through this in a very positive way. But with Venus being in this energy at the same time, with Mercury going direct, she might be really pointing at some of those uncomfortable, not direct, Mercury trying to go into shadow before it goes into retrograde, and might be pointing out really what makes you uncomfortable within things that stand in between you really getting to your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. And when you're out of that flow, then it also gets in the way of your universal second house of being able to create money and how you create and spend it. So when you're not feeling good about yourself, your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, you're also out of the flow that brings you that money. Okay? Because if you're not feeling good about yourself, you're actually projecting it away from you to not being able to bring it to you. So it's speaking to you about what is stepping in the way of being secure or finding securities in yourself that is able to believe in your identity and your image as you start to move forward by trusting in that very identity and image and giving yourself back a new dose, a new level of self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem. And then you're going to be noticing that throughout the month in general, because like I said, Pallas is here helping back up that energy with strategic thinking, helping you to analyze what works for you and what works against you. Listen to her. Listen to your intuition when she's speaking to you here. And your third house is Sagittarius. Sagittarius happens to be for you your communication zone. So this is going to be all about how you communicate properly. Sagittarius this month, like I said, this whole month is going to be bringing a new level of that communication with yourself and how to truthfully believe in that communication and then speak it out to the world as to what you really truly want and need where you haven't felt the courage to necessarily before, is what I feel like I'm picking up. And this is coming from Jupiter being in that house. This is all about your short messages, your details, your trivia, the intellect, but the communication itself and how you communicate properly. This is also the throat chakra, which also reminds us this is not just about how you communicate in healthy ways, but how you also listen in healthy ways. Ceres is coming closer to this all month long. Ceres is coming closer to it in Jupiter. This is also bringing a new higher level of understanding, with it being Sagittarius, to you, and very easy to go with the flow in it. Should making it, help you come to a new higher experience of this communication. But Ceres here is going to be directly pointing out to Sagittarius where that communication has been neglected or nurtured properly. And come Halloween, when the moon is right on top of those two, it's definitely going to bring an illumination to it, whether it's positive or negative, bringing it to your attention of something, bringing to light something that's coming into communication that either you haven't been neglecting, you have been neglecting, or you haven't been nurturing properly, or you have been nurturing. It's definitely going to show itself in one way or another come Halloween day, because that's going to be building all month until that moon sits right on top of those two as they hit. Now, you also have in your universal fourth house, like I said, we were just talking about this. You have Pluto, you have Saturn, which have both just gone direct, and you're going to have that South Node there. The South Node is saying there's something incredibly good at that you've gotten good at telling yourself about your inner emotional security, but it's a lie. And what I mean by that is it's not supporting that inner emotional security anymore. Maybe it did in the past. Maybe you've outgrown it. Something about that inner emotional security that you're latching onto, the idea of what that inner emotional security is something from the past that helped. Something that helped your idea of believing in what your true self was, what your true roots were. But it's not the truth for you anymore. It's speaking to you of overcoming a karmic lesson of yourself and overcoming a part of yourself, because this is reincarnating a new level of true emotional security that you've never been able to experience before. But in order for you to do that, death, decay, and destruction for renewal, rebirth, and regeneration, whatever that is that doesn't serve you anymore, you have to let go of. You have to acknowledge it doesn't help. And you have to shift those rules, walls, and boundaries of the outer community and the outer people around you, so that it does start working towards really working in service of what helps you find that inner emotional security. It's a new depth from a new higher self that you're coming to understand. And like I said, this is going to be a little bit, I don't feel like it's something that's torn, but it's something that you're enlightening to. You're walking up that ladder too. You're coming into a new evolution of self, a new ascension, and a new alignment of your own truth. And it's definitely showing itself as Saturn comes out of retrograde. Saturn comes out of shadow and Pluto comes out of shadow. So you're going to be noticing this actually over the next couple months, but you're definitely going to be noticing it starting now. Now, in that universal fifth house, your universal fifth house is Aquarius. You don't really have anything here right now, so there's nothing in the way or supporting your pursuit of pleasure, that inner emotional creativity, your inner child, your, love situation. There's nothing working for it, but there's nothing working against it. There's nothing trying to help you tap into that inner child. There's nothing helping you to understand what that pursuit of pleasure is outside of yourself. But Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which asks you right off the bat, automatically, for your inner emotional security, your inner creativity, your inner child to be able to breathe, to find enjoyment in life. Where are you being able to stand out and be independent? Where are you being able to show your inventive selves, your inventive truth, your independence? Where are you being able to be that little rebel within? And if you're not tapping into that, then it's steering you away from that creativity and that pursuit of pleasure. This is helping you get back on track with what actually is connecting you to that inner emotional security. Now, in the 6th house is our everyday daily tasks. This is where Pisces is and Lilith is. This is Pisces, where Neptune is and Lilith is. Neptune is still in retrograde. Now, Neptune is our magic, but he's just as magical, positive or negative. He's how we create our magic. And with Lilith here is also asking you to get right with that inner emotional security of your sexuality, of your... Lilith is our little toxic temptress, okay? She's the little evil one that wants to do the little bit evil about our sexuality, but she also gives you courage to step into a level of sexuality you're not necessarily comfortable with. With Neptune being in retrograde, it may be going back and making you look at some of your younger adolescent self. But this is your daily routine. Neptune is speaking to you of where illusion smacks you in the face with harsh reality. Neptune in retrograde asks you to learn from nostalgia. To learn from nostalgia. Learn from the past. Don't restart the past. Don't go back to the past. Don't recreate the past. It is about moving forward. Learn from the past. And I put Neptune a lot of times in its magical way, as when you're watching these videos, it's like I'm sitting here with you. It's like I'm having this conversation and I'm talking directly to you. However, by the time you get to the video, Lord knows what I'm doing in my life, okay? You see what I'm saying? It's the idea that you get from it's an illusion. It is able to create brand new healthy magic, but it's also able to step back into the past and bring the nostalgia to you and make you believe you're still in the same old story. And you are not. It's asking you to learn from that same old story and then change it and tweak it so that it's a new story. And how is that Lilith energy starting to help you get right with your inner emotional security and your inner sexuality and that inner child energy and bring that forward? All of this is taking place in the 6th house, your daily routines, asking your daily routines to speak to the very energy of your inner emotional creativity, your pursuit of pleasure, which leads you right back to your inner emotional security. So it all comes down to a depth of true security by understanding those everyday daily tasks. Your mundane is actually one of the most important things about helping you create what you want to be, and security. And I always say our people, our places, and our things are all part of the energy we consume in those daily, everyday, mundane tasks and patterns. So if the people, places, and things that you are consuming are actually not serving you, getting back to your creativity, your pursuit of pleasure, your enjoyment in life, and your inner emotional security, there's something wrong within those daily routines. So that's the best way of serving that. Now I'm at 29 minutes, and I know that I'm not going to make it in 30 to go over from the 7th house to the 12th. So please, if you're interested to know the rest of it, come right back and check out part 2. I'm just trying to make sure I don't short you, because I don't know how to not talk that much yet. Love ya.